What is going on with this weather, first of all? Yesterday it was 76 degrees. Well, not yesterday, but 2 days ago. Today it's 38 degrees. Is this called global cooling? I feel I need to do a follow-up video to the video I just shared recently of my upcoming follow-up appointment with my GI specialist doctor, surgeon at Wake Forest Baptist Hospital. My name is Natalie, and beyond being the Good Shepherd here on our small hobby farm, I'm Natalie. I'm me, and I don't even know where to begin. I'm always unscripted. I have my notes because I'm not a doctor. And yesterday's follow-up appointment, what I can begin with saying is I went in with no expectations. It's not like I went in with no hope. I went in without expecting anything. Alexa, volume down. And that's the first thing I said to my doctor is, I don't know what you can help me with. I don't expect you to be able to cure me, fix me, and yet I'm here. And when I feel well and good, I so embrace life. And yet I've been sick for so many years now since my Heller's myotomy surgery, for my achalasia, surgery on my esophagus that ultimately was a perfect surgery done, and yet it is ultimately what created all of my further issues with my GI reflux. Vomitorious, constant state of being, no rhyme nor reason to when and where, constant bouts of diverticulitis. And it's been a long road. So I wasn't expecting to hear anything. I was expecting to make this long drive and get there and be like, hey, okay, you just keep prescribing these reflux medicines. Well, I now have another doctor in my life who has said, Natalie, you don't make sense. I said, I know. I don't. I guess my words don't make sense to people. My body doesn't make sense to people. And I said, I've been told this my whole life by doctors that I'm an anomaly, that Natalie doesn't respond to medications or, such regimens of treatment or surgeries or anesthesia in the normal ways. And yet my lab work, my whole life has always been normal. Hey, you might be sick as a dog, but you are healthy. Look at this, blood pressure always perfect. And then these issues began to arise, and the medication I take has increased my blood pressure, which then comes with other problems, like I was having Charlie horses in my legs real bad, and I was having something, I don't know if I made this up or not, but my doctor understood when I said marionette syndrome, where there was times in bed at night, like my fingers and my toes were curling up and it hurt, and they'd go right back. I called it marionette syndrome. He was like, oh. I said, listen, I take this medicine twice a day. So I've gone through every regimen. I said, look, Dr. Clayton, I'm not saying that I'm a fascinating person, but I do find myself fascinating. And that's a good thing, because that means I care about myself. And I don't think, that's a bad thing. And I've done everything, studying myself with all your medications and stuff. I've gone off of them altogether. I've done once a day. I've done the twice a day. I've tried ivermectin and fenbenzidole for the parasites and, all this stuff that keeps happening. And he said, he's at this point scheduled me for another endoscopy and a colonoscopy, which I just had a colonoscopy about, I guess, 3 or 4 years ago. He's like, no, I want to see what's in there. I was like, okay. He believes that, there could be something about colitis going on. And he mentioned that there is a surgery to remove a part of your colon that will stop the diverticulitis. He said there's other problems that come along with that, though, more loose stools. And I was like, He said, let's go in and do this first. And let's send you to labs. Let's do a full workup. The one thing that I had mentioned to all my doctors back in the fall was that I was diagnosed 26 years ago when I was pregnant with my first daughter with hypothyroidism. I had initially been diagnosed with hyperthyroidism. I'd been on levothyroxine now for 25, 26 years of my life, and I've gotten my thyroid checked every 6 months for all these years, and I've been on the same dose for 25 years. And this past fall, I went back to hyperthyroid. And from my recollection, scientifically speaking, once you go from hyper to hypo, you can never go back to hyper. And yet I did. I got down to like 97 pounds. That was also leading up to the time that I had E. coli, Shiga toxin E. coli, with Giardia, Salmonella, the norovirus. And that was that 6 weeks that I was totally alone on the farm, isolated. I never as sick in my life. I was definitely lifted, carried, held, comforted, loved by heaven. My doctor mentioned, we already know I have something called dumping syndrome, and this isn't about poop. Dumping syndrome, meaning anything I eat, it just goes right through me. Kind of like celiac disease, and yet I just got tested again for celiac disease, and that's not really the issue that's going on. He believes that I probably, and this is why he wants the endoscopy again, that I probably maybe have ulcers on my esophagus, or somewhere in there. He said he thinks that this raised a red flag to him finally, my thyroid medicine, when I brought it up again yesterday. I said, I was confused. Like, why would it change? I mean, I lost weight, so that makes sense, but no, it doesn't make sense. When I was told you can never go back to hyper, he said, well, when they switched your thyroid, this is when all this stuff began. And I was like, well, I can't really say, but these issues now, no. They began before, but yes, they became worse. Yes. He set me off for labs. And as I was driving home, my phone started to ring off the hook from Wake Forest Baptist. I was like, what? Andy. Okay, he's Afternoon Delight. Without getting too much into it, because I'm not really ready to get into it right now, I wasn't expecting. I get lab work all the time. So this came as a shock, and I'm not ready to talk about it. But onward, upward, shepherd. I'm not a soldier anymore. And yet, if I need to be a soldier, I know who to call upon. I've got a long road ahead of me. I'm the Good Shepherd. I don't mind being alone. I've never minded being alone, and even before I had a hobby farm, I was alone. But not alone. You know what I mean. Maybe you don't know what I mean. But as a stay-at-home mom, we have our own lives and all of that. So that's what I mean by alone. But now I'm really alone, and I'm grateful to not be distracted by external drama and but this and that and all the everybody starts to I've shared with my therapist and I've shared with my mother, and I said, we still don't know for sure. But if it is what it is, what my doctor thinks it is, then I'm so aware of the ways we as a world of people, human beings, it's not that we rely on perception. We are created to live by such perception. And that's without thought. It's immediate habit, habitual, responsive, spewing out of, it's not even real thoughts. It's what we learn along our own life. If you see anything, you've got your already perceived notions of it. And so, for example, like when Farrah Fawcett, they finally came out and said she was dying from, I think it was it anal cancer or rectal cancer? The perception that the world had on this beautiful woman was, oh man, she must be having anal sex. Oh man. And their whole visions like of this woman changed. I've known 4 of my own friends who have died under the age of 50 from lung cancer and never smoked a cigarette in their life. They were never even sick until they were sick. And they go to the hospital and they're like, you have 3 weeks to live. I know that the perceptions of these persons was they must have been lifelong smokers. And then their whole perception, they see this person's, no, they never smoked. So, you know, okay, once we die, does it really matter what people say of us? No, it doesn't. And yet I also understand why such persons, I know a family friend who their mother got Alzheimer's and they moved her to a whole other country, to Australia. Because the family and the mother decided we don't want anybody to see the mom deteriorate with such a disease as Alzheimer's. We want everybody to remember her in her prime. We are a world of perception, and that's, I mean, that is a problem. And yet we're programmed. And it's not just by family, it's by life itself, by everything. TVs, billboards, stores, music, television, Hollywood, families, friends, coworkers, strangers, life moments that happen. It's how we're programmed. I have a strong support system that is not only above, and it is heaven. And I'm going to continue doing all that I've been doing and being me. And I'm going to follow my doctor's instructions. And I'm also going off for another ultrasound of my abdomen. They're going to be checking on my liver again. So that's kind of the update here. My doctor said, listen, Natalie, you know I specialize in achalasia and GERD and reflux and, you know, anything with the esophagus. I said, I know. He said, you make no sense to me. I said, thank you. He said, but we're going to figure this out. I love this doctor because he doesn't treat me like he loves me, as Natalie, and yet after my first impression of him feeling like he had a God complex, I'm now grateful that this man, whether he has a God complex or not, I'm grateful for his love and passion of what he has specialized in and focuses his whole life on. You know, he cares about a person, a patient who happens to have a name Natalie. I don't think he would ever recognize me in public or anything like that or call me by name, but it's a beautiful, comforting feeling to know that he definitely is not poo-pooing any of this. He's not pushing me off to the side. He wants to get to the bottom of this from day one of meeting me over a year and a half ago at Wake Forest. So we're going to get there. And until then, I pray all the time. And so it would be rather selfish of me to not ask for you to pray. Thank you. Am I procreating here? Are we going to have babies?